not a secret how much free quality information Wager Talk, Sports Moment, and the Gold Sheet produce. And next up, we're giving out the Wager Talk College Basketball Guide. This might be the most informative collection of sports betting info we've ever produced. We're covering returning starters, offensive, defensive, and tempo rankings, recruiting rankings, head coaching info and background, and so much more. Even if you are the casual basketball fan, head over to the Ralph Michaels page and download this amazing guide for free.
And welcome in here, guys, on this Monday, December 7th. It is time to dive into some college hoop, your college basketball tip-off show. I'm Joe Raineri, and today joined, as always, by Ralph Michaels and Dave Koken here. And exciting weekend in college hoops as a couple of weeks now into the season. A whole lot of cancellations, a whole lot of questions, a whole lot of great performances. But the one thing we can count on here, Ralph, is that college basketball, it is back. It is, even with football going on, watching the markets and watching some of these teams, man, college basketball, the excitement's starting to grow here.
Yeah, it's too bad, Baylor and Gonzaga got canceled on Saturday, that 1-2 game we were talking about. But, just like we have in football, guys, we have some teams that have already played 6 games. And at my count, of the teams that are planning to play, because remember, the Ivy opted out, Bethune-Cookman opted out, as did Maryland Eastern Shore, there are still 46 teams that are going to play the season that have yet to play a game.
Yeah, and Dave, so far, how has it been for you in college basketball here? As obviously nobody likes to dump in with college football, with the NFL still going on, but there's still some money to be made in these soft markets with college hoops.
Well, I don't know how soft the markets are because I got off to a really good start, 5-1-1, and then I just was not good at all this past week. And one of the things that was happening was I kept blowing leads in the second half. So I made an adjustment on Sunday, played a first half on one game, and I did play the full game on the other, and they won them both. So hopefully things straighten out. But, there's going to be stretches where I do really well and stretches where I don't do particularly well. Hopefully Sunday was a momentum boost, and we're heading in the right direction now.
Short card here today, guys, but like we always do here on the show, we'll run through some of the top performers, some of the top covers from over the weekend, Ralph, and we'll throw the list up here, and let's talk about some of these top performances. We'll start with Austin Reeves, Oklahoma at TCU. TCU, great job in the first half. They were stroking it at home, but second half came by. Give Oklahoma and Austin Reeves credit for coming back and dropping in 32 in that game.
Yeah, 36 minutes, they needed all of it. So, when you're putting up 32 points and adding 9 assists to the mix, it shows the value right there. And De Silva, he only played a handful of minutes, 25 minutes against North Carolina AT&T, and, did what he had to do with 26 and 8. So, just another performance for one of the best players on the left coast.
Yep, Mervyn James, of course, North Alabama. Michigan State did a wonderful job there against Western Michigan. Michigan State and Izzo and company appear to be right back to where they always are at this time of year. Everyone seems to be talking a lot of buzz regarding Michigan State and Seattle too at Long Beach State with Darian Trammell came through. What happened with your Cleveland State team, Ralph? What was that I heard? Was that a 40-0 run? What was that?
It is. And so I went to read it today. Oklahoma had the previous record, a 39-0 run, so Ohio beat them. So I went to Cleveland State's page, their athletic website page, and the first note for the game was, Cleveland State shot amazing, 18 of 21 from free throw land. So if that's your top line on your recap of the game, you're a little bit in trouble.
Big time. Big time is right. LSU, Florida, Mississippi Valley State making the list for the first time here, Ralph. 42.5 in their game. And we always manage to find them somewhere at the bottom of every KenPom rating, do we not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for them to get this cover. I mean, because they had been getting blown out. And we talked about it, another team. When you find those teams in college basketball that are losing games, we all know Eastern Kentucky's 4-0. People are talking about them, people betting them tonight. Drexel's 4-0, UAB's 4-0. So those teams we know. But when you have a UT Arlington, Joe, we mentioned UT Arlington last week. They are now 1-4 straight up, but they are 4-1 against the spread. So you have those situations. High Point, another one. Yeah. They're one of the added games that some people don't play, but High Point is 1-2 this year and 3-0 against the spread. So that's really where you find the value, is not teams that are 5-0 straight up in ATS. It's the teams with a losing straight up record and a positive ATS mark.
Big win against North Florida, too, High Point on over the weekend. What stuck out to you so far, Dave?
Well, a couple of things that I'll disagree with a little bit. First of all, I'm not impressed with Michigan State so far, but I rarely am at this time of year. They really struggled with Western Michigan yesterday. I watched most of the game, and they weren't particularly good in that game. But Izzo really doesn't care what they're doing in December. He never has. Okay, for Izzo, the season starts in February. So don't draw too many conclusions about teams that might be falling a little bit short of expectations early. Some of the others, I'm not as big on ATS results as I am on straight up results. So I'll talk about Texas Arlington for a moment because, they've gotten off to a good start against the spread, but they're not winning any of these games. And this is somewhat remindful of last season when Arlington just had a really bad time playing 40 minutes. They had game after game where they'd look really good for 20 minutes and then would be awful the next 20 minutes, or vice versa. They'd fall way behind and come back. I think that's a troubling trend for them. Another one that comes to mind, and I actually won this bet yesterday. I had Pepperdine first half against San Diego State. And I played it first half because Pepperdine continues to have this issue where they go out there and they play. And you can look back at what they did last year against top 50 teams, and they were basically in every single game. I think there was one game where they got hammered early. That was a BYU game. But every other game, they're right there with Gonzaga, with St. Mary's, with other teams in the top 50 that they played. But they cannot close out a game, and it happened again yesterday. They absolutely dominated the first 20 minutes. San Diego State was terrible. And if you look at San Diego State's stats for the whole game, it's like, how did they come back and win this game? Well, Pepperdine found a way to screw things up at the end. Lorenzo Romar's never been very good at closing games and still isn't. I worry about that, guys, moving forward with Pepperdine. At some point, you've got to start winning games like that, or a losing culture starts to set in mentally, and it's going to start costing them games against teams they should be able to beat later on this season.
Short card here. Go ahead, Ralph.
I'm sorry. Mention the UCLA game, Dave. The 3 overtimes in that game. Had they beaten UCLA, had been 3-0 going into San Diego State, perhaps it's a whole different mindset in the second half. And they beat her, and we are at UCLA. We can handle the San Diego State team.
It's a short card here tonight here, guys. Limited action on there, Ralph. I know we talked about just off air. The Volunteers, shall we say, the mid-major programs, the Battle of Mid-Majors in Tennessee taking place tonight is one of the games I know you focused on, Tennessee to Chattanooga and Middle Tennessee State. Talk to us about this game, what you're looking at as we look Southern Con versus Conference USA. What are you seeing here tonight in this game?
Well, for those people tuning in today, again, it's a light card. There's some day action. So, again, when your two prime games are the games we're talking about, but do make sure you're on tomorrow's show. Dave will be joining us as well. North Carolina, Iowa, Illinois, Duke, and Creighton, Kansas. Someone just opened Kansas 3.5 against Creighton. So, Creighton getting respect. Here, I look at these Tennessee teams today, and it's a game where I just got burned on Middle Tennessee. I actually lost on Murray State. Middle Tennessee started the season shooting horribly and not playing good defense against Nebraska, Omaha, and East Tennessee State. I knew they were talented, but their defense came to play against Murray State. Murray State had an 8 or 9 point lead in the first half, and Middle Tennessee just shut them down in the second half. Murray, I think, shot 3 of 18. So early in the season, Dave talked about looking at stat boxes, it's important to know when you're trying to figure out, well, was that 3 of 18 performance by Murray State against Middle Tennessee an outlier bad offensive performance, or was it just that the Middle Tennessee State defense is that good? And that's what we're doing as handicappers, trying to look at the stat boxes and comparing the two teams. In this one, I believe Middle Tennessee State's defense is that good. McDevitt, their coach, has talked about how they play defense and how they played well in practice and how they're meshing. So my lean in this game certainly is towards the Blue Raiders.
And Dave, I believe Blue Raiders are 7-5 advantage all time between these two teams. They have won the last two meetings. How are you looking at this matchup here tonight?
Well, I don't care about the past because Middle Tennessee was a powerhouse under Kermit Davis, and those days are done. They're supposed to be better this season, but they didn't start off that way. They lose to a mediocre Nebraska-Omaha team, and they lost pretty big to East Tennessee State, which is a team that lost all their talent from last year. They were a 30-win team last year, but they're not nearly the same level this year. Then they go out and play a really good game against Murray State. So Middle Tennessee's been erratic so far. Chattanooga's supposed to be a little bit down this season, but boy, Lamont Paris has really turned that program around. They were horrible when he arrived, and they're 3-0 already this season. A good win against Northern Kentucky last time out. I don't know what to make of it. I've got to see more from Middle Tennessee to see if the preseason expectations for this team to be improved are real or just something that were conjured up. I think this is a really close game that's lined pretty well with the number being 2, and it's a game I had no trouble staying away from.
Want to remind you guys, too, as well, both Ralph and Dave, WagerTalk.com. You can go and grab yourself the all-access passes and never miss a college play. And it's, Ralph, I'll ask you here, with the line movements the way they are, it kind of makes sense to get yourself in the all-access. This way, when you and your Dave, you post these plays, you're going to get it at the best number at that particular moment as opposed to right before tip-off, shall we say?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're getting the email as soon as we post the plays. So when Dave posts his plays, boom, his all-access customers get the email, same with mine. And I also do. I always will put a note in my all-access program. So if you sign up with me and if there's day games, I'll say, here's my day games, this is the final update. And then I usually say, this is my final card. So you're not waiting to know if I'm adding a play. You know when you're getting your next date, and you know when the plays are complete for the day that there's no expectation, am I going to miss something? So clearly the best way to go. So much easier and so less stressful with the all access.
So I want to ask you, Dave.
I'll just throw in that from my standpoint, it's a little bit different from Ralph's, but from my standpoint, there are games that I just don't sell individually. I had 2 in college football this weekend that I never sold them individually. I think I don't remember which 2 they were, but same thing's going to happen in basketball, where I might decide close to game time this is worth playing because the line has moved to something more favorable for me. Those games aren't going to get sold individually, so the only ones getting them are all access players.
Bottom line, you got to be in it to win it here, guys. Get the information sooner rather than later. Head over to WagerTalk.com. Let's talk about another non-conference hoops game here tonight. I'll start with you, Dave. How about Loyola taking on Santa Barbara? UC Santa Barbara here tonight. Loyola coming off a injury-riddled season. They were 11-21 last year. A lot of those kids returning, or at least some of those kids are returning for the team here. Santa Barbara always seems to be right at the top there. How do you see this game going tonight? It's a short number at 3.5. It's been bouncing back and forth at this point with Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I really put an arrow up next to Loyola Marymount this season. Mike Dunlap is finally done there. That was, I don't know, the best way to put it, I guess, is a turbulent coaching regime. And Stan Johnson coming in is clearly an upgrade. So far, they're 2-2, but a good win, a really good win against Long Beach State, who they hammered. Southern Utah win was a close win, but actually looks like a nice win. Todd Simon's done a wonderful job at Southern Utah, taking what was one of the worst programs in the country and making them respectable. And they just swept Montana over the weekend, which is nice. The 2 losses for Loyola were against Minnesota. So Minnesota's a borderline top 50 program. They're supposed to lose those games. And the second game, they really gave them a battle. So it does look like Loyola's clearly improved. Santa Barbara, though, a lot of people think this is the year Santa Barbara ascends to the top of the Big West Conference. They've got a good-looking basketball team, and in fact, if you look at the Ken Palm rankings, whether it holds up or not, we'll have to wait and see because Irvine always seems to find a way to win that league. But Santa Barbara is the highest-rated Ken Palm team in the conference. So I think this is one of those early games that, in fact, we'll call it an early series because they're playing tonight at Santa Barbara, and then they go to Loyola on Saturday. This is some of the weird stuff that we're going to see this season is teams playing home and homes back-to-back. I'm going to look at tonight's game. I hope I can find it someplace because I want to watch these two teams. I haven't seen either one of them play yet. And maybe get a gauge for what to expect on Saturday by what we see tonight. But these are two arrow-up teams for this season that could be much better than a lot of people think.
And, it's funny, Ralph, I know in your college guide also, if you head over to Ralph's page at WagerTalk.com, it is, if you're just getting into college hoops, download. I mean, it's the Bible here when it comes to college basketball. Santa Barbara, and I know this was in there, Santa Barbara returns, I believe, 4 starters from last year's team. They're coming off a 123-52 against the NAIA in Bethesda. We won't spend a lot of time talking about that. But as far as returners go and stability with this program, are they at the top in the Big West with UC Irvine in your point of view?
Well, this is where it's sort of a wake-up call for those people new to college basketball. Why would UC Santa Barbara at home with 4 returning starters from a team that won 21 straight games with Joe Pasternak playing, having won 20 straight games Santa Barbara has for 3 straight years, only be a couple-point favorite against Loyola Marymount with 1 returning starter? Well, you mentioned it, Joe. Loyola Marymount lost 3 starters during the season last year, and the 2 players that they thought were going to be starters weren't cleared for the season. So he's now sitting on, while it shows 1 returning starter, it's closer to 5 people that were going to start for him at some point last year, now back. So that's where returning starters are a bit misleading. Loyola looks like they're going to press the pace this year. They have the guard play to do it, and I didn't make a determination, but I looked at the game this way. I think if you like Loyola, you like over the total. If you like Santa Barbara, they're one of the slowest paced teams. We don't know how they're going to play because they've been untested in 2 lower division games. But if you like Santa Barbara, I think you're going to lean with the under as well. So I'm going to be like Dave. They're playing again. I'm going to look at the correlation of who's controlling the game, and I think who's controlling the pace. Learn from this game and move on.
So just one other comment. I'll go back to this again. I think you got to throw out maybe the last 2 seasons at Marymount, particularly last season where it was no secret Dunlap was not going to be returning after the season. The program was a real mess, and it's just a clear line. It just put a clear line through what happened last season because that wasn't reality. They're in a very difficult conference, so it's not like Loyola Marymount's going to be challenging Gonzaga and St. Mary's and maybe San Francisco for the league title. But they could be in that range where, they're like Pepperdine, a team that's going to be a lot more competitive with some talented guys. And they may be a team that consistently produces point spread covers as an underdog, at least for a little while.
Interesting. We'll get to some of the best bets here tonight, guys, like we do on the show. If there's a game that you might have circled here, Ralph and Dave, tonight, maybe a dog that's on the card. But I want to ask Ralph, what's going on with Morehead State in Eastern Kentucky? This opened up at 13.5. Somebody's doing something with this game because it's down to 10 now. And I'm wondering, I get Morehead State has played the toughest schedule. I mean, they're only 1-3. It's been a couple of disappointing years for them. They haven't hit from anybody. They're losing, obviously, to Ohio State. But am I missing something here with Eastern Kentucky where Morehead's getting that much money coming their way this early?
Oh, I'm on Eastern Kentucky. So, yeah. I think you have one of the fastest tempo teams. You have a team that, they they went to Xavier and they lost in overtime. Do we know anything from the North Florida game, Charleston Southern game, or UC Upstate? Really no, but I certainly lean, and in fact, that was going to be my best bet today. I mean, it's a weak best bet on this kind of card, but for the show-wise, I'm just going to say now, Joe, it is Eastern Kentucky, and when the line kept coming down, I kept getting closer to using it, but I just didn't pull the trigger. I mean, we're talking a top 150, 160 team, and Morehead State, I have in the 300 range.
Yeah, very strange. They've hit 95-plus points, too, Eastern Kentucky, in the last two games. I know against South Carolina and Xavier, like you had said. So I don't know what the market movement's doing or what it means. And Dave, I guess maybe how much do you look into that kind of movement on a game like this early on?
It's kind of surprising to me, too. I thought the line would hold around 12 or 13. I mean, it's not a play for me. The only thing I can suggest is that the thought process is Morehead State's going to try and take the air out of the ball. Looks like they're going to be a very slow-paced team this year. And it does get tougher to cover double figures sometimes when you've got a fast team versus a slow team. Fast team tends to get frustrated sometimes. You can go back to the old days when UNLV would have fits with Air Force because Air Force would frustrate the hell out of them, slowing things down, and UNLV would end up rushing shots and not making the most of it, and they'd end up struggling against a team that they should have hammered. So maybe that's the thought process here, but mine is that, I mean, if Eastern Kentucky gets out to a lead in this game, Morehead State's going to be out of there. They're going to be forced out of their preferred tempo, and that, to me, could lead to a blowout. If I were going to play the game at this number, it would have to be Morehead State. I do have a play that I did make tonight. I think there's reason to go with the underdog in this particular game. It's a first-half play for me. And because it's $9 Monday, the play's available right now at WagerTalk.com for just $9. That's the only play I'm making today. So obviously I'll have all my eggs in that one little basket tonight.
Love that, guys. Ralph, is there a dog that you were looking at here tonight? Something you wanted to throw out?
None popped out at me, Joe. I was, when I was looking at the card, I am a big fan of this Eastern Washington team. They won me a lot of money at the end of last year. And, them getting 14 against Oregon is about my only other lean as a dog that I really think they could keep that game close.
So, again, guys,
I'll just throw in one thing. I mentioned about Izzo earlier, where he really cares a lot more about February and March than he does about November and December. Dana Altman falls into that classification as well. Dana Altman is looking to get his rotation set for the games that matter later on. I think he'll be just as happy with a 5-point win as with a 25-point win. That's a team I don't really like laying points with early because I know they're going to be better later on in the season, and they will be better, by the way. Altman's a great coach. Doesn't get the pub that some others do around the country, but he's as good as it gets in getting his team ready for crunch time.
You mentioned it too, Ralph. You said North Carolina, Iowa tomorrow. Don't forget Wednesday, Michigan State, Virginia. So that's also going to be a pretty interesting test there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Louisville, Wisconsin. It's a loaded card this week, guys. But, again, we invite you to head over to WagerTalk.com. Both Dave Koken and Ralph Michaels' picks are available. Grab yourself the all-access pass. It is $9 Monday, so what these guys have up right now is yours for $9. Head over to WagerTalk.com. So on behalf of Ralph and Dave, I'm Joe Raineri. Come back and join us again tomorrow, right around this time, guys. We'll do it all over again, make it a profitable college basketball season for you. Thanks, fellas. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
It's not a secret how much free quality information WagerTalk, SportsMoma, and the Gold Sheet produce. And next up, we're giving out the WagerTalk College Basketball Guide. This might be the most informative collection of sports betting info we've ever produced. We're covering returning starters, offensive, defensive, and tempo rankings.
Stand by, Davey, right there.
Rankings, head coaching info and background, and so much more. Even if you are the casual basketball fan, head over to the Ralph Michaels page and download this amazing guide for free.